Hey everyone, it's Casey, and today we're going to do a deep release into our core muscles using a therapy ball. So I have a tune-up alpha size therapy ball. You can use whatever you have at home, a tennis ball, lacrosse ball. I like therapy balls because they're designed specifically for this. So we're only going to really work two specific areas within our core. And these are going to be really deep areas. So they're essentially kind of the same framework, just one works the front, one kind of works into the back. So the front, we're going to work more on our psoas. So we're going to think about the space from inside of our hips and our groin up towards our belly button, okay? That's going to be on the front side. We're going to target two different spots. We're going to start a little bit higher up towards the belly button. And from the belly button, we'll go out slightly and we'll just work into those spaces. And then we'll drop it down towards the hips and start to open it out a little bit wider, kind of into that inner hip and groin space. Then after we're done with that, we'll work into our lower backs. So lower backs are going to be basically the same system of working all the way from the ribs towards the hip. And we'll start by working all the way from the inside, so closer in towards the spine, higher on the ribs, and then we'll work into the center, and then we'll work out towards the hip points on the side and kind of work into that space, three different segments, okay? So front core muscles, back core muscles. There's a lot of other core muscles that could be worked, but these are my two favorite, and so I'm sharing them with you. So first and foremost, let's just take 3 breaths and kind of ground into that breath, establish it before we drop into these deep stretches. Close your eyes, relax everything out. Take a slow breath in through the nose. Take your time to fill up all the way into your belly. So you're expanding out and all the way up. Hold at the top of the breath. Open up your mouth and let's just let this one out. Exhale, release your breath. Slow breath in through the nose. Fill all the way up, around, lifting up towards the chest. Holding the breath. This time we're going to keep the breath through the nose. Exhale, slowly empty the breath from the top all the way back down. Okay, let's do that one more time. Slow breath in through the nose from the bottom to the ribs and all the way up into the chest and shoulders. Hold the breath. And then through the nose, exhale, empty out from the chest to the ribs and out through the belly. Okay, let's go ahead and open up our eyes, a little bit more relaxed and hopefully a little more open and expansive through our lungs. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our block and we're going to start one side and then the other side. So I like to take the block on its lowest setting, kind of down flat on its belly, not a lot of movement, but a good amount of space and support on top. And then I'm just going to take that therapy ball right on top. So remember, first, we're going to start off with the space directly to the side of the belly button, okay? That tender space. There's not a lot there, so we might need some support with our hands to kind of ease into it. After that, we're going to roll out a little bit wider, kind of fanning open, okay? So let's start off by dropping that therapy ball, coming down onto your forearms, and we're going to start on the right side. So I want you to kind of pull your left knee out to the left side, and you're using that kind of helping to like prop and support yourself. Now with the therapy ball, I want you to find the belly button, take it to the right side of the belly button, and then you're going to slowly start to let yourself sink down onto it. Oh, so instantly you're going to feel either a lot of tension or you're going to feel a lot of release. Okay, if you feel tension, it's okay. Find the right amount of tension to where you can still maintain breath. I don't want you to take it beyond that threshold. So breath is going to be really important, especially when you're moving into such deep releases such as this. So if you want a little bit of movement, you can kind of rock it side to side a little bit. If you found the right spot and you just want to hang out, hang out. You can open up the elbows, you can rest on your hands, another block, whatever you'd like. But I want you to let's take 5 slow breaths. And really focus on breathing as deeply as you can and relaxing as much as you can on the exhales, especially through those front abdominal muscles. Two more breaths. You can slowly start to feel your weight melting in, little bits at a time. Let's take one more breath here. Okay, you're gonna come back up onto your arms. You're gonna walk that back knee in to kind of lift up and out of it. Now, as you come out, we're gonna stay on that right side. Instead of being right next to the navel, we're gonna drop it down, but we're still gonna be above the hip, okay? So we're not below the hip. We're still kind of above that bony structure of the hip, but I want you to kind of drop down almost into the top of that right hip pocket, okay? And then you're just gonna slowly let yourself sink back down. So as you do, belly turns down, okay? You're on the inside. You can even feel down to that right hip, kind of feel that flaring open of the right hip, and it's that space right into that front divot, front of the hip, and that little divot right inside. Sinking in, same thing, maybe you kind of sway a little side to side. You might feel a lot moving around in there, okay? This also helps a lot with kind of speeding up the digestion, breaking up any blockages in there. So if you feel a lot of tightness, maybe it's because you just ate, or maybe because there's just a lot of tension. So slow your breath, try to relax yourself into it as much as possible. Let's take 5 breaths from here. Any adjustments you need to make those little adjustments. Sinking in, you're going to take one more deep breath. And then you're going to come back up onto the arms, come back up onto the knees, lifting up and out. Okay, make your way up to a seated position just for a moment, sitting up nice and tall. And I want you to just kind of take note of how you're feeling inside, okay? Sometimes it feels like a lot has moved, a lot has shifted. Sometimes there can be discomfort in there, okay? So sometimes there's little gargling sounds that start creating in there. Okay, so just kind of feel into that space, and also notice how that left side, how the core muscles do feel a little bit tighter. Okay, we're going to soften into that space now. So switching it over to the left side, starting just to the left side of the navel, and then second time we'll roll down and slightly to the outside into that little divot. So coming down once again onto the forearms, and then place that therapy ball, find the belly button, and then go to the left of the belly button and just ease in. Right knee can come out to the side for a little extra support. Ease in as much as you can, maybe rock a little side to side until you find it. Whew. Once you do, try to settle, try to find some support. 5 slow breaths. One more breath here. And then use the hands, the elbows, and the knees to lift up. And then you can just come forward a little bit. Take the therapy ball, bring it above the hip, find that wing of that left side of the hip, bring it down into that inner little pocket, almost like it's the front of the hip, but almost in towards your groin. And then just let yourself sink in. Once again, you can kind of sway a little side to side, work into that pocket. Right below that low, low belly. Sink in. Four more breaths now. Try to take some tension out of your shoulders as much as possible. Relax your facial muscles. Okay, and then you're gonna come back up onto the elbows, back up onto the knees, coming up and out. So that's really the only time we really need our blocks, but I'll have it an offering when we come down onto our backs, just in case you're not feeling it. But once again, just sit up nice and tall and just kind of take note now of both sides, how you're feeling. Chances are you feel a lot more loose and open. Okay, so once again, before we come onto our backs, we're gonna focus on the lower quadrants in our backs. So the space below the ribs down to the hips. We'll start on the inside, closer towards the spine, and then we'll work towards the center, and then we'll work towards the outside, the hip points once again from the back side into that little divot, okay? So come onto your back, have your block and your therapy ball handy. Block is optional. Okay, you'll know once we get into it, because if you can't find it, the block will help you. So we're gonna start, and actually I'll flip around so you have a better viewpoint here. We're gonna start on the right side. So bend the knees, walk the feet in, okay? And then once again, we're starting right below the ribs on the inside, closer to the spine. So lift the hips, you're gonna roll it underneath you, underneath the ribs, make sure it's not pushing into the ribs. Underneath to the inside of your spine, find that kind of little top inside pocket, and then just let yourself hips sink towards the ground. If you don't feel it, lift it up, reposition it, settle in again. Now, if you keep trying this and you're still not feeling it, chances are it's because the ball is too small. Lacrosse balls and tennis balls sometimes are a little bit on the smaller side. So if that's the case, you're gonna lift up, take the block, and then the ball on top, and then let yourself sink onto it. It's just helping to fill that space, okay? We are kind of working into the lower back, which already has that natural curvature, right? That curve away from the ground. So it's a little harder to kind of press into it because we have to find something that fills that space plus pushes into it a little bit more. So now that I've been talking for a little bit, let's just go ahead and let's take 2 more breaths, because we're gonna continue kind of working into this same muscle. So on the front side, we worked into the psoas, and now we're working into our QL, our quadratus lumborum, okay? We're gonna work it in 3 segments. Last breath. Hips lift up. Okay, you're gonna take it now to the center. So it's that center point between the hips and the ribs, and the center point between the outside of the body and the spine, okay? And then start to sink in. Your knees can tip a little bit. I like to play with my knee placement. Sometimes they like to tip, sometimes they like to stay pointed up. Sometimes I like to extend my legs out. It all just kind of depends. But I want you to kind of play into that pocket. Hips drop heavy, and give yourself 5 breaths once you feel it. One more breath. If your legs tilted, bring them to center. You're gonna lift up. Now remember that hip flare, that hip bone off to the right. I want you to take it kind of to the inside of the hip bone, still above the hips, but find that little divot now on the back side. And once you find it, you'll know. And you're just gonna let yourself melt down onto it. Same thing, maybe the knees kind of tip a little bit. Okay, this one's more to the outside, right next to that hip point. That nice little pocket right to the inside. Maybe that leg's tipping to the right really kind of helps the weight sink down onto it. Sometimes you can feel the sensation light all the way up into the side of the leg. 4 more breaths. And then slowly lift the knees to center, hips up, remove the therapy ball and let the hips flatten down. Once again, just take a moment to notice the difference between right side and left side. Maybe sway the knees a little side to side. It's crazy how much of a difference you can feel. These are such deep muscles, they're so hard to target, and yet they become so tight. Feels really nice to release them. Let's do the other side. Okay, on the left side, lift the hips. If you need the block, use the block underneath it. Okay, you're gonna take it underneath the ribs to the inside, closer towards the spine, that upper inside pocket. And then let your hips sink down. Maybe they tip a little bit, maybe they stay pointing upward. It's entirely up to you. 5 breaths. You should feel a decent amount of sensation. If you don't, keep playing inside that little area. One more breath here. Okay, body reneutralizes, lift the hips, take it down into the center of that lower quadrant, so center point, from all corners and edges in, and then just let yourself sink into that center point. You're just continuing to find that muscle, different spots within it. Maybe the knees tip a little to the left, play with it. 5 breaths. Two more breaths here. Any repositioning you need, go for it. Last breath. Re-neutralize everything here, hips lift up. Now take it to that outer hip, still on the back side, and then roll it just to the inside of that outer hip. Find that little divot, that pocket, and then same thing, the hips just start to sink heavy. Maybe the knees tip a little bit, maybe not. Such a nice release once you find it. Keep exploring until you do. Now let's just take 4 more of those really slow breaths, knowing it's the final breaths before we wrap up this practice, so fully enjoy. Notice how that lower back just melts open now. We're really creating more elongation in our torsos, especially that lower space and our core muscles that become so tight, just softening everything out. Okay, Re-neutralize, lift the hips, remove the therapy ball out of your way, and just let yourself rest. Maybe sway the knees side to side. And then you're just gonna roll over to either side, a fetal position, and use the top hand to come all the way upright to a nice seat. Spine up, close the eyes. We're just gonna take one deep breath. Inhale, belly, ribs, and chest. Expand open, and then open up your mouth and exhale, let it out. Hands joined together at heart center. Thank you so much for allowing me to guide you today. Namaste. Thanks, everyone. Like I said, these are my favorite ways to relax my core muscles. My torso instantly feels more mobile and more released. So let me know in the comments how you're feeling, and I'll be seeing y'all soon. Thanks so much.